Well, here we go again, George. Podcast number 2. Yeah, let's join hands. So Corrie has been bugging us for weeks now to get on this podcast. Finally, we're letting her know. I know. Well, Corrie, but thank you for joining us. I know I'm teasing about that. Okay. But the last podcast, we talked about how important it was for you to staff the right team.
Yep.
What was it about Corrie that made her part of the team?
Corrie was, we needed to fill a seat. Corrie was available. There really wasn't time to get any more applications in. We got panicked. And I think Corrie got more panicked.
You settled.
It was, yeah, I think we each needed something at the moment, and we each kind of settled.
No,
I'm kidding.
No.
I hired Corrie.
Yeah.
Way back in
2014.
My God, Corrie was, I guess I'd say one of the original hires, because when I started in 2013, I hired 3.
Yeah.
And then we went, I swear, 15, 16 months without any openings, and no one left. And then the first opening I think we had, I hired Corrie, and she's been great. Did you leave us at one point?
I did. I was wondering if you would remember what
Yeah,
you told me.
I think I said you'll be back.
You did.
She said you'll never work in this town again. Yeah, and here she is.
No, I thought you'd be back. I can't even remember what you went to go do, but whatever it wasn't going to be this.
It wasn't this. It was great. It was a great opportunity. I did civil law. It was very interesting. I'm so thankful for that opportunity. It's something I always wanted to try, and something I'm glad I kind of got to experience. But this is where my passion is, and I'm glad I had the opportunity to come back again.
I told Corrie I left prosecution 3 times in my career, twice voluntarily to go chase some money. Not that you were doing that.
Yeah.
But,
No
and then once because of the law, and I mean term limits, I don't mean, it was forced out of the law. So I tell just about everybody that leaves, and I gotta say it's about 2/3 to 3/4 people come back.
Well, one of the things I noticed, I've seen both of you all in the courtroom, you're both really passionate about what you do. And George had said in the last podcast that it wasn't really a passion. He didn't think he was going to be an attorney growing up. Did you, though, feel like you wanted to be an attorney growing up? Because I know it's not in your family history.
No, I'm second generation college. My mom went to Ivy League, so didn't reach that level.
Excuse me.
But
University of Colorado Boulder?
No.
Different Ivy League?
Virginia Tech?
University of Pennsylvania.
Oh,
that
that's
is
legit.
Yes.
Okay.
And she always wanted to be a lawyer, so I think that started a passion in me about reading. She's a librarian as well, so brought home books, always was reading, always doing something that involved reading and learning. And I just kind of fell into it. I loved watching Law and Order growing up, as cheesy as that sounds. I wanted to be Jack McCoy.
Yes.
So,
yes.
And developed a passion and followed that. I knew I wanted to be a prosecutor as early as 8th grade. I remember doing a presentation on it. So this is where I was headed.
Tell me this, it's competitive. What we do is competitive. You cannot be a wilting flower and be in the courtroom and do this. Growing up, were there things you did athletically or otherwise that fed that competitive spirit, or was it just later in life that you're like, man, I want to win for the right reasons?
Well, as everybody knows, I'm a great athlete, like C-team soccer for 3 years in a row.
C for championships?
Champions League.
Yes. So I tried athletics, that wasn't it, but I was always competitive academically, and I wanted to learn as much as I can and do as much as I can, and I was involved in anything I could be that would lead me on this path. Going with the student body work, I was on a national board for Key Club, which is a Kiwanis club. I guess it was regional, but it was Colorado, Wyoming, and the panhandle of Nebraska, wherever that is. So that's what we ran, and I did those things in high school, and I think those prepared me.
And you were in Manitou Springs is where you went to high school, right?
I was going to ask.
Yes.
You in high school?
Yep.
Manitou Springs High School.
What's the mascot there?
The Mustangs.
Mustangs, I like it.
Herbie the Mustang.
Yeah.
Is that right?
No.
Basically,
I don't think his name.
Corey's the student that never talked to us when we were in high school, George. I get it. But George, we talked last podcast, he's been involved in some really high profile cases, as you know.
Yes.
You have too, though. The axe murder in Inglewood, the latest one about the woman who killed a mother and her son in a DUI. Do you choose these cases, or how does that work out?
That's a great question. Sometimes they choose you, and I would say that's definitely what happened with the axe murder trial that was in Inglewood with the 18th. That was a case where there was a great prosecution team. One of the prosecutors was stuck in another homicide trial, and so they asked me if I could do it, and if I could do it within, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks. So get up to speed and jump on the trial. I did. I had a great co-counsel, Jake Atkins. He's my chief. He was fantastic, and honestly, we had a really good time digging in and trying that case to the best of our ability. it was a difficult case. We didn't have any real victim representatives. The man killed his wife and his daughter really violently with an axe, put them into trash cans, and really, really sad. They were from outside this country, and so they had an organization representing them, but no family members present in the United States to come and stand up for them. So it was an honor to do that and to be able to do that so quickly.
Why did he do it?
Well, that's a great question. He said it was financial. I'm not so sure. I think the burden, his daughter had a long time disability, and I think the burden of kind of caring for them and not knowing what would happen to them in the future was part of it for sure, but I don't know if it was all of it.
You guys, 82. I have no
Yep.
idea what you guys discuss in church. What is this stuff? What does this guy have?
He was guilty of first-degree murder, life in prison.
Know where the guy is now? I mean, I can't imagine that there's a lot going on with him.
Yeah, and relatively no criminal, I think no criminal history, maybe some
Wow.
traffic history, but nothing major, just.
Brutal.
Yeah, that was a lot of media exposure. I remember covering that. George, how do you decide which cases you get involved in too? That's a question actually people were asking me.
You mean now as the DA?
Yeah.
Because, kind of like Corrie, some of it is right place, right time, if you can accept those terms. Like, I didn't put myself on Columbine. I did put myself on Aurora. That was different. Aurora was a case that was so big and so impactful for the community. And because it was a potential capital case, I just didn't feel like the right thing to do was for me to finally conclude, okay, I think this is a death penalty case, and then go send people off to go do the work. That's a moral issue, and I didn't want them to wear the weight of that.
This guy gets held accountable. That's what the evidence says. Not because I say it, because that's what the evidence says.
And then other cases like STEM, again, huge community impact. And I think for some of the biggest cases out there, the community should expect to see the person they've elected to try to be the law enforcer here, to show up in the courtroom and do that. I mean, the good news is, and I get all the benefit of the victories that we have. I mean, as you know from the press releases, I make sure that everyone thinks I did all the trial.
That's not true.
No, we try to spread the wealth. But what people ought to know is, I'm not the only guy that can try a case in this office. I mean, we stock the office with 39 other prosecutors who are in varying places in their career in perfecting the craft of being a great trial attorney. Corrie's just further down that path. I mean, she's done the big cases already. So I don't need to be on those cases, but if I'm on it, it's because either personally I'm passionate about it, like this shaken baby death case we have coming up, or because I think it's one where the community expects to see the elected person in there. Otherwise, let Corrie do it all.
Yeah. But Corrie, what drives you? What makes you so passionate about these cases and bringing justice to these victims' families?
I think it's a mix of a number of things. Personally, it's rewarding to walk through that with the victims and give them some finality, some closure, even if it's very limited in what we can provide. Some answers sometimes I think are helpful. And then personally, it's a huge challenge. All of these cases present different issues, different legal issues, and you have to think on your feet. You have to be able to adapt to things as they're changing in the courtroom and still present the best case and represent the community, and I think there's no greater honor.
Well, and I know these people become your friends, and these victims, they're still calling you, and you too, George, right? Guys you've met over the years.
Mostly to continue to criticize. No, I'm kidding.
Not true.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When you've done the kinds of cases that you've done, and you've seen the things that you've seen, and you talk with these people whose lives have these big holes blown in them and stuff like that, how do you compensate for that in your personal life? Like, how do you compartmentalize that so that, you're not laying in bed every night staring at the ceiling, or once again turning to another bottle of scotch or something like that?
What do you mean?
Well, only for the people watching the video.
Yeah, that's right.
Because if it's just the podcast, they don't know that I've referenced Tom.
No.
How do you do that?
I think having good family and supports, and one of the things I've always loved about this office is I've had my best friends in this office. They've become family, and sometimes you can't debrief or unwind with anyone who hasn't been through it, and most people here have been through it. I mean, my family is great. I love my family. They are so supportive. They support me every day coming in and making sure I can do this job and do something I'm passionate about. But I don't want that trauma to be weighing on them either. So I think having friends, bonding, I shop, I go to Starbucks a lot, those sort of things help.
Do you ever find yourself telling the stories that we tell, and then you maybe get out a little bit over your skis on sort of how you're describing things, and you can see on the other people's faces who are the uninitiated, like, oh my God, and you're like, okay, whoa, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I get it, I'm not amongst the peers.
Yes, I mean, especially, some of the stuff we deal with is very traumatic, and I think we build our own walls up to be able to deal with it, whether that's a humor wall or some other way to kind of make it more normalized. And when you're telling these stories and you're talking about the evidence you're touching or what you saw that day, or opening something that is bloody and really traumatic, and describing that to your husband, and his face is, what are you talking about? Not
Yeah.
today. That can be
Pass
hard.
the butter.
Yeah, even us covering the aborted theater shoot, I would go home, we covered it for weeks, and you didn't. And I'd get home and you find yourself having a hard time even knowing where to start to talk about it with everybody. It just, it hits you, but you do have to compartmentalize, and I think you do a great job with that. And let's talk about, it was the first murder sentencing in the 23rd Judicial District. We talked about the Jefferson case. 1985 cold case, you all got the killer finally, but the verdict was bittersweet for both of you, for a lot of reasons, but Missy Woods was one of the big ones.
I'd like to hear Corrie talk about how they got to this place, how you got on the case, because that was before me. But also, my understanding is there was a point in time where you were like, we're gonna go get this son of a gun.
Yeah.
We're gonna pin first degree murder on him because he earned it, and then all of a sudden the rug gets pulled out from under you.
Yeah, so this is a case, and this is one, again, that kind of found me, but it was a case where we had a lot of different moving pieces in terms of prosecution. People left our office to do other things, and that's ultimately how I kind of got brought on. There was a team of 3 for a really long period of time, really headed by then Senior Chief Chris Wilcox, and 2 other prosecutors who ended up leaving. And when they kind of left or were transitioning out, I was brought into the case. There was also some scheduling concerns, and we just wanted to make sure it was well staffed. So there was a lot of ups and downs. The DNA, this was a DNA case.
For the folks in podcasts who weren't familiar,
Yeah.
just tell us basically what happened.
So essentially, November 21st, 1985, Roger Dean was murdered in his home. At least one, potentially 2 masked men entered that home, held him at gunpoint, kidnapped him, bound him with duct tape, bound his wife with duct tape, was upstairs in a robbery that really went bad. They demanded money, and then there was a scuffle down in the entryway. He ended up getting shot 5 to 6 times. They ran, and he ended up dying out on the street in front of his neighbors. Really, really super traumatic.
And they had DNA evidence from a ski mask and other things early, but the technology wasn't there at that point.
So the DCSO did a great job. They preserved the evidence. There's an extortion plot that comes into play. It just is really a fascinating case in terms of what played out, but it wasn't until the early 2000s that we got a first DNA profile. They started working it up. They didn't get any what's called a CODIS hit, which is if you commit other felonies, your DNA gets put into a system, and that might hit. They didn't get any CODIS hits, so they started going back and did a couple things. They went to a company who essentially was able to do a mock-up of who the suspect might look like, and they got that. Then they went through genetic genealogy, essentially working backwards from the DNA, trying to find relatives, and then narrowing that down until they got to Michael Jackson.
That is fascinating.
Yeah.
So he got 32 years, which on the surface things, hey, it was pretty good, but it was bittersweet for you all because of this Missy Woods. So you want to talk about that?
I can tell you my point of view from it as the guy that's coming in and hearing this case, but the tougher conversations were had before I got here, and that was the conversations that we probably had with Wilcox and the victim's family, and the daughter is like the last living direct descendant, right? Like
Yes.
the wife passed away after years of not knowing her husband's killer.
Yeah.
And so that was probably a much more challenging conversation. First off,
It was.
talk about what was the problem with the DNA, or who's going to testify in part about the DNA that created an issue at all. Because, but for this thing, you guys are going to trial, this guy's going to be sentenced to life without the possibility of parole, but it doesn't happen. Like, how did you get there?
So essentially, the news broke. Missy Woods was the main analyst here. She was endorsed. Had we gone to trial at any point sooner in the case, she would have been our witness.
And for folks that aren't familiar,
Yeah.
she was like a superstar.
Yep.
She was like the
Yes.
Peyton Manning of DNA, for the CBS. She'd been on every dang case I can think of, and then all of a sudden this scandal broke that
Right.
she had been,
She was the expert. We all talked to her.
yeah.
And I think that the main issue for us and what was very evident would come out at trial is she touched the evidence. I think it might have played out differently had she not been directly involved with the evidence, but she did the direct testing, she cut some of the MVAC filters and some of the other evidence where those profiles were generated from. And there was no way in what's called the chain of custody, meaning the DNA comes in, how it's extracted, developed, and tested. There's no way to cut her out of that chain and to alleviate any concerns of what she may or may not have done. Jefferson was one of the identified cases where she did alter some of the data in the spreadsheet. There's no indication it's a false match, and in fact, we've had it retested, and it came back actually stronger than Missy Woods' DNA calculations. But the reality is she's in that chain of custody,
Right.
and this case then becomes a case about Missy Woods and not about Michael Jefferson.
And the problem is because it is such a DNA contingent case, it's a all or nothing proposition. You roll the dice in front of a jury, they're not gonna go, I'm not really sure about the DNA. Second degree murder, they're gonna say, not guilty. And that was the risk.
And there's no, no confession, no other evidence.
Right.
There's some circumstantial evidence tying him to the scene, but there's nothing else really as solid as that DNA.
Oh,
given.
also talk, two things. One,
Yeah.
you said they did a drawing, sketch drawing,
Yes.
based on that. Talk about how close that was,
Oh.
and then talk about the neighbor across the street.
Yeah, so Paramount is the company that did it, and they essentially take the DNA and they use a computer program and they spit out what that DNA could make a person look like, or what a person would look like based on the DNA. And it was, if you look at minus
I
maybe
saw it
the
in court.
eyebrows.
It was like,
Yeah.
I thought it was a sketch artist drawing a picture.
And none of that is admissible at trial, but it's great leads for law enforcement because it tells you who you're looking for.
Right.
And it can kind of confirm, as we got closer to Michael Jefferson and found him, it's spot on. It's very, very close. I think the eyebrows are the only kind of difference for me. I mean, you look at pictures of Michael Jefferson at that time in that picture, it's great. And there was a neighbor witness. Out of respect for her, I'll kind of keep her name
Sure.
out of this, but she, I think it was 8 or 9 at the time. She saw a black male running from the home, and her whole life she was told she was wrong. She was told she was wrong by law enforcement. She was told she was wrong by her family, and she had to carry that burden. And it turned out she was right all along.
It haunted her. I mean, you can
Haunted
tell she came to this. She
Yeah.
was deeply affected by this too, and I don't know, to have this kind of closure, this confirmation, I can't imagine what that's done for her.
Right, and I think, and the apology from the community and the law enforcement officers,
No,
and,
sure.
I hope that gives her some solace, and honestly, her testimony would have been very key at trial. What she saw is what the evidence showed we had, and I hope that gives her some solace too, that she knows that she was a big part in us also solving that
Yeah.
crime.
Well, and that was tough for you all. But do you think there needs to be a change in the way that DNA is handled, laws, the way it's handled here in Colorado, and
No.
sentencing in general?
Well, sentencing's different.
You-
DNA,
Well,
no, as
too-
long as
too-
they follow the damn rules and do the things they're supposed
Yeah.
to do, I'm not worried about it. My concern about the Missy Woods case, bigger than Jefferson, is that it plants the seeds in the minds of jurors that somehow this is manipulatable and you can cut corners and maybe we can't trust it as much, because for the last 10 years, we've kind of been on a nice position where the science has been so solid and so proven that when someone had DNA attached to it, people were like, I trust it. Now we have this hanging out there, and at least in Colorado, you just don't know what jurors bring with them into the courtroom, and I just don't want them second guessing it. If I'm a defense attorney, I love the Missy Wood story, because I think that there's an opportunity there to call into question this evidence, which otherwise is rock solid.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it also undermines the work of some really good scientists that we have at our labs. There are people who are passionate about this, who do it right, and it calls into question their work, even if they weren't involved in Missy Woods' scandal or any of the issues that go along with her. And it's disappointing because they are questioned more thoroughly about their own research and their own conclusions when they've followed the rules and they've done everything right. But accountability is always key,
Yeah.
and she needs to be accountable for any misstatements, any misinformation she provided.
Yeah, obviously she is, at the time of this recording, she is only accused of crimes and presumed innocent. It's not our jurisdiction.
It's not. But, well, so we've talked about how you guys are passionate about what you do, What's the best part of your job? George, I'll ask you first. What, other than the podcast, we know how much you love
I was
it.
gonna say the podcast, now that you've taken that off the table, it will be the discussion after the podcast. I don't know if I can just limit it to one thing. I'll say this, for a guy who never wanted to be an attorney, never grew up, despite his mom becoming an attorney, never wanted to be it. There are just few things you can do in a daily job where at the end of the day, if you've done everything right, a bad guy got held accountable, a victim got defended, and justice occurred, and you kind of ride off into the sunset in a white hat. I don't know, you can put a price tag on that. And Corey, I don't know if that's what brought you back here, but I left for more money a couple times, and I always found it. I always found the more money. But I never found this is getting me out of bed in the morning.
The satisfaction.
Just never, we don't make widgets. It's hard to measure what we do other than case by case, but just that satisfaction, that feeling like, okay, we did something measurably good here. The other side can't say that. If you're a defense attorney, you might be able to say, I defended the constitutional rights of my client. But sometimes if they do everything right, somebody who committed a crime and victimized somebody gets no consequences. And I don't know how good you can feel about that.
Good answer. Corey, how about you?
Yeah, I think there's no greater feeling than doing what's right, and sometimes that can mean different things. Absolutely, it means winning a big case, maybe, and sticking up for that victim and getting a good outcome for the community. And some days it's filing a dismissal because that's the right thing to do in the case.
So true.
And I think being part of that process and making those decisions and making them thoughtfully and carefully, understanding how it's going to impact everybody in the system is fantastic, and it's a great burden, but also something that I think we choose to do every day and that we love to do. And I agree, there's no greater day when you fought for a victim, when you fought for justice, and you get to stand up and say, I'm so glad we were able to be here for you. I'm so glad we were able to walk you through this process, because we're meeting them on their worst day, and hopefully we can make one day a little bit lighter for them moving forward.
I don't want to leave on just that very, very serious but appropriate note, but I want to ask you, every prosecutor that does trials like this, you have one or two moments that you would consider moments of levity that have taken place in trial.
Oh, I'm sure. I tend to say really dumb things in trial.
Now you tell me.
Yeah, wait, George, I don't think the ink is dry on the contract. We can still get her out of here.
No, I'm very bad with guns, so I think one that comes to mind is I was explaining to a jury something about a gun, and I couldn't remember the word trigger, and so I said, the thing that makes the gun go in closing. I also couldn't remember the word freezer, so I said the fridge, and the other side of the fridge where it's cold. So
Your
I
mind
just
is
have
racing.
those, you're
That's-
talking fast. And
Yeah.
I tend to, but those bring light and levity to the trial, and
Yes.
even on the most serious trials, even on big, long murder trials, there's always some
Something.
human moment there.
Right. How about you, George? I'm sure you've had a
Oh, most of them you can't really talk about, but there were, even on the, 10 years ago right now, we were starting jury selection in the Aurora Theater case. And you would think on a case of that scope, that magnitude, with all that horror in it, that it would just be a solemn event, and it can't always be that way. So I know that there was one point at which sometimes you say things like, and so what we do is to, and as soon as I said it, I stopped and I said, I just said doo-doo. And then I went back into the question. I didn't even remember doing that. The court reporter the next day when I was grabbing some stuff out of the court was like, you said, I just said doo-doo on the record. She showed me the little typing thing, and I go, I did? I go, my God, it's a mass murder case. And then we had things like, we were trying to figure out a way to describe insanity. Because that was the defense in the case, was
Right,
the dude
sure.
shouldn't be held accountable because he's insane. Not guilty by reason of insanity requires you as the prosecutor to disprove beyond a reasonable doubt that they knew right from wrong, that they could know right from wrong by, not based on societal standards of morality, and that they could form a culpable mental state. And so some of this was this exploration with these psychiatrists about what they used to try to measure those things. And so one of the things is, can you be delusional and still be sane? Because this dude had been a diagnosed schizophile in the blank.
Mhm.
And so part of the delusion is a fixed false belief in something that isn't true, and it doesn't change in the face of competent evidence. I know it's a long description, but it got to Justin Bieber. because I said to the doctor on the stand, I said, Doc, what if everybody on the planet Earth thinks that Justin Bieber's a joke, but I think he's the greatest performer in the history of all music. And people show me his record sales versus, Taylor Swift or Michael Jackson or the Beatles and all that. I don't care what you say, he is the greatest performer of all time. Is that a delusion? And then he gets into his, well, not really the same thing as an illusion. I don't know why psychiatrists speak that way, but they all do. And then the defense attorney, Dan King, gets up and he starts asking questions about Justin Bieber, the hypothetical. I follow up on redirect about Justin Bieber. Justice Samora calls us to the bench and he goes, can we please be done with the Justin Bieber references? Next day, I come into our little war room over at the courthouse in Arapahoe, and someone has purchased a Justin Bieber doll that if you poke it, it sings one of the Justin Bieber songs, and set it in my chair. And I just thought, yeah, I guess you could do this in a
I have not heard that story. I love that one. Well, we talked about a lot of, important subjects, and we got a really important one to discuss right now. Luka Dončić going to the Lakers. What do you think about that? I know you have some opinions about this too, Corey.
Oh, yes, tons. I don't know.
George does.
It feels like the fix is in. That's my opinion with the NBA. He's one of the great players that's out there. He'd like to be Jokic when he grows up, but he's never going to be that great. But he was playing for the Mavs.
Yep.
And perennial MVP candidate. He's always in that top 3 to 5 and all that stuff. Well, the friggin' Lakers ended up in some trade, sent AD over to the Mavs, where he'll go to die, I suppose. And now the Lakers have one of the greatest players in the NBA playing with LeBron. I don't know if you've ever heard of that guy.
And his son, right? His son
Yep.
is there?
Bronny, I don't know.
Bronny's
Bronny's in the system, but I don't know if he's on the Lakers team itself. But
I tried.
you know, it's the
he
game
was.
with the orange ball.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
And anyway, it just seems incredibly unfair, especially with the challenging season the Nuggets have had so far. So.
It is. And Corey, I know you have some strong opinions. How do you feel about the Dončić trade?
If it's not Dougie McBuckets from Doug McDermott, my alma mater.
Oh,
He went to Creighton.
Can't
Yes.
say that word.
Oh, yeah,
Great.
yeah.
I don't care.
So do you follow any sports?
My
Professional.
husband does.
Okay.
Well, it doesn't help us
Let's
for
get
this
him on.
podcast.
Call him.
Yeah,
Let's get him on.
He's a Chiefs fan though,
No.
so.
What?
I know.
Where's he
No.
from?
The Midwest,
Yeah,
Okay.
Iowa.
Okay. Well,
You
maybe,
don't really have choices there.
couldn't you be like a
It's like
Bears fan or
Chiefs
something? Or Vikings or?
Yeah, that's the other one.
Does he recognize that America outside of Kansas City is rooting against his Chiefs?
He does.
It's kind of like that Eagles, EGLES.
I know. It's a tough Super Bowl because it's a redo from a couple years ago.
Yeah.
But I'm so tired of the Chiefs thing, and it's not because I personally hate them. I think Mahomes is a class act and one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Real tired of the Kelce tainted story.
Wow.
That thing has to end in a breakup and a couple albums, and let's just move on. I'm done with it. But I think I'm tired of them being in our division and winning it every single year. That cat, Mahomes, has been in the AFC Championship every year he's been the starting quarterback. And that is a reason to hate him.
That's fair.
Hate's a
That's
strong
fair.
Yeah,
Well,
hate is a strong word. Strongly dislike.
Strongly disliked. Well,
That's all right.
well, guys, we are coming to the end. Corey, and all kidding aside, we are so happy to have you here. You do a fantastic job, George. You too as well.
Yeah, thank you for that. As the boss, I appreciate
Yeah, I
that.
have to say, I'm contractually obligated to say that, but it's true. So anything else you want to add before we sign off the podcast too?
I want people to come away from this feeling like, my God, they must have an office full of superstars like Corrie. And that's okay. Maybe we edit this out. Truth is, we don't. Truth is, if you walk around the halls, you're convinced that we hire based on narcolepsy or something. Because people are just at their desks nodding off all the time. Corrie's the exception.
No.
She is the one person.
She is the A-team. She is. that's
The
right.
A-team for sure. And in
Yes.
fact, what she's gonna find out, and you probably are from the emails I've been sending, is that being good at what you do means you get asked to do more and more and more. So I'll say it here for this recording. If you ever feel like you're getting overwhelmed, like I'm overburdening you, suck it up. No, definitely tell us so we can get you some help.
Okay, we'll talk after the podcast.
Yeah.
No. Anyway, great having you both. Really appreciate it. Thanks for sharing a little